Chapter 3 of the Public Speaking Playbook, Ethics and Public Speaking in a Global World. We must understand ethics when coming up to a speech. Why? Just like we understand that there needs to be a rule in a basketball game, we must take in consideration those rules. 3.1a talks about how to attune yourself to the difference in cultures, the difference in ethical backgrounds, and all that stuff. You need to take in consideration ethics, as before mentioned. And you also need to take in consideration cultural diversity, which is the recognition and valuing of difference. You need to have mutual respect and understanding of your audience before a speech, otherwise your speech will no longer be successful. Why do you need to understand cultural diversity? Well, in the United States, there's 5 different ethnic groups. There's white, Hispanic, African American, Asian American, and Native American. If you don't understand and appeal to those groups, you'll be leaving some out, and therefore your speech will no longer be successful because you have failed to appeal to a certain audience. 3.1b talks about how to assess your understandings of cultural identity. You must ask yourself questions. Are you comfortable with speaking in front of people? Am I leaving some people out of my speech? Am I aware of how people from other cultures perceive me? If you don't take into consideration those questions, you will fail to perform your speech, and again, you will not appeal to those cultures. 3.1c reflects on cultural values. You need to understand co-cultures, which are members of the same general culture, like Hispanic, white, African American, but with different ethnic backgrounds. Like some Hispanics are Hispanics from Cuba, some from Dominican Republic, some from other countries in South America. If you take in consideration those co-cultures, you avoid making marginalized groups, which are groups of people who feel like outsiders. If you do not have any outsiders, everybody in your audience is listening and understanding the topic you are talking about. If you have marginalized groups, that group is being left out and your topic was no longer delivered properly. You must also take in consideration different styles of communication. High context communications is more common in European areas, while low context communication, which are the ways that Americans tend to speak of, which is attacking the issue directly instead of avoiding it and making subtopics like jokes and sides to appeal to other groups. Now, Christopher will introduce understanding cultural identity. Christopher.
Thank you. So 3.1d deals with understanding cultural identity. There are 6 different factors, 6 main different cultural identities, which are gender, which are men and women, how they perceive different political topics. There's age, so older gentlemen and women would have different viewpoints than the younger demographic. There's racial and ethnic identities and how they perceive those. There's religious identity, socioeconomic identity between the wealthy and the poor, and national identity. So those are all different cultural identities that the speaker needs to acknowledge before going into their speech. They also need to understand those cultural identities if they want to make humor, for example. So if if their audience is Muslims, they shouldn't make a joke about sexual jokes because they are a more reserved culture. 3.1e deals with preferred learning styles. So there are 2 main preferred learning styles. There's oral and there's visual. And if a speaker appeals to both learning styles, then they would be more successful, appealing to more of a bigger audience. 3.1f deals with understanding differences to build bridges and confidence. If you understand others' point of view, then you'll be a more successful speaker. You'll make sure that you'll appeal to all of them, and if you have their viewpoints, then you'll be able to understand them more. And if you respect their differences as well, you'll be a more successful speaker. So next is Bianca, and she'll be dealing with speaking ethically.
Ethics represents the right and wrong of an act. So for example, if you're playing a sport, you expect no cheating, no type of unfair play. It's just respect for you and your other teammates. And it's not just with that, but with life as well. Ethical communication is being honest, accurate, and reflective. And what the audience expects speakers to do is to be reliable and trustworthy. If they aren't, the audience tends to lose interest. They don't pay attention. They have a sort of lacking position. They seem disoriented in a way. But the goal is to put the audience first and to be easy to understand. Don't contradict yourself, otherwise it destroys the bond that you have with them. And what the speakers expect of the audience is to be attentive and to have respect. Don't be shouting at them, don't be yelling at them, don't be disrupting their presentation because they did take a long time to prepare and it already is as nerve-wracking as it is. Just make sure to give everyone a fair hearing from the speaker to the audience. And this is David, he's going to be talking about thinking critically.
Thank you. A big part of speech is how we think. To think in a critical manner is to have the ability to explore an issue or situation. As a speaker, we want to be able to retain info at a high rate. We want to make sure our sides are clear, and we would like to bring out a lot of thought in our audience. We like to bring out new ideas and to challenge their past beliefs. A good speaker knows his limits, keeps an open mind, takes the time to prepare for his speech, acknowledges both sides agree and disagree, accepts challenges, rejects others' opinion, and they only retain the best info. A bad speaker thinks they know everything. They're very closed-minded and impulsive and quick to shoot down any other ideas, and they only have information on their sole purpose. 33A talks about the motivation for the speech and what we would be talking about. 33B reminds us to be honest, clear, have clear convictions, and to make an emotional connection. And last but not least, 33C just talks about our outcome. Did we fall short? Did we easily surpass it? Why? Was it effective to our audience or not? And that's it.